Y is recorded in front of a live studio audience.
This book, The Secret Pet, was originally written in French. Are you
Well,
fluent in the French?
no, that's a complete lie. It's a fabrication on my part. Um, I did a French edition that was actually translated from that, but I always wanted to have it was inspired by French children's books, which always talk about stuff very matter-of-factly, whether it's death or tapeworms in this case or
Hmm.
whatever. And I just had this idea that I just wanted it to sort of be otherworldly in that way from an American book, you know. And so I had it translated into French, and then I did a whole edition there. I don't think I've sold one copy of the French version, of course, but
That is
But that's very
amazing.
French too, I feel.
I know, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I feel it's right, you should be in the department, like overlooking the Seine, wondering why your beautiful French tale has not been sold.
I know. It's quite sad. But yeah. So it actually there was a long, elaborate backstory about how I found this document and found this manuscript, and I pared it down to just it was originally published in French. I did publish it a day earlier than the English edition, so technically that
So
is
for
true.
collectors, yeah, that is the original.
See, and
Thank
it
God you're
was
good
not a
at
lie.
drawing berets,
Hmm, hmm.
especially for this one. Um,
And I actually had, yeah, I had a French copy editor on it too, where I said, I need you to look at, they were like, it was someone who edits French children's books actually. And I said, I just need you to go through here and tell me, like, would they not wear a beret here? Would they do that? What is this the right type of crepe uh
See,
truck cart?
should this child be
And
smoking? Yeah, I got you.
she said I got most of the stuff accurate, but she said the one thing I didn't get right was she goes, "This child is far too young for an absinthe bar." Um,
see,
and I said, yeah, you have so you have to be. I think you have to be 11 or something in France to go to an absinthe bar. I guess I don't know.
oh
But I
my
said I don't
gosh.
really say how old the child is in there,
I
so
think he looks 11.
he's fine too. It's totally
Right.
fine.
How did you
Yeah,
find this
no.
copy editor? Did you just like post on like
I went on
Craigslist
Fiverr. I
looking
went on
for the
Fiverr.
most French
Is
editor
that
possible?
Sancerre?
Yeah, well, I looked. I first I was looking for French translators, and it was actually a separate person from the translator. But yeah, I went on just on Fiverr and just reading people's bios and found one that does children's books.
That's
Like that's her day job,
amazing.
and then she does translations and stuff. And I go, well, I got a weird one here for you.
That
But
is
then I said,
amazing.
how weird can it be if you're French? So
This is true. This is very,
Right.
very
This is
true.
probably a day that ends in Y or I, or I guess it would be an I.
This is Why, with your hosts, Heidi Hedquist and Luke Poling.
See, I should have applied for this job. I could remember this much French.
So I hesitate to ask this, but where does the idea come for Etienne and his secret pet?
well, so
Is this
my
personal
wife.
experience?
No.
Oh, good.
My wife wrote a book several years ago. She wrote under the name Tiffany Rice. It was a romance novel. So I, I'm going somewhere with this. She wrote a romance novel several years ago, and in it there was um, just a throwaway joke about one of the characters was French, and he said someone had a secret pet, and this woman goes, a what? And he goes, like a tapeworm or something, a secret. And it was just a throwaway joke, and I was like, what is this children's book that you reference? And she said, I just made it up, and I said, oh well, it needs to exist. So basically, I threatened to write it for about 5 or 6 years until I finally got around to it. But I was trying to actually I tried to at first I was trying to find like an artist to do it, then I did the art myself, but I was trying to find the right sort of art style that mimicked those sort of older French children's books from the turn of the century, around the Victorian era and stuff. And so it took a while to really get that art style down, because it's very different from my normal art styles.
But you
It's
feel Etienne's
perfect.
plight, I feel like,
You do.
with every photo.
It's very heartbreaking. And first of all, Etienne is the greatest name of all time. I
Oh
love
yeah,
I
him.
know, I
definitely.
know.
It's so
He's
much
such
better
a
than Steve. Like Etienne is so much cooler than Steve.
yeah, I mean, if this was just Steve and his secret pet, it just wouldn't have the same weight. It's just something heartbreaking about this poor child who may even be an orphan. I'd probably. I mean, I think that's how they're
Yeah.
born in France.
I
Yes.
So yeah, so it just yeah, it's kind of heartbreaking and kind of sweet and whatnot, and which is, was not in my intention, was just to make a throwaway joke, but I was like, oh, he kind of looks like he's having fun, and then he's kind
Yes.
of upset at the end of the book, but then he says, well, we can still be pals.
No, it's very sweet. And it has become like the favorite coffee table book in my home. Like I am not able to move it from the actual coffee table. Everyone loves it. Like my actual nieces and nephews, like the
Oh,
actual children who visit my home, love it for all the, I'm not sure if it's the right or wrong reasons. Like they love it. And they're 8, 9, and
okay,
think
yeah,
it's
that's the
amazing.
right age. Yeah, yeah.
Yes. And then the people, because I only like cool, people that actually get it, love it. And
Cool
then,
people, yeah.
yes, the cool people like it. But it's fantastic. And
Oh,
he's
thank
way
you,
cool. Like if
thank you.
only he could meet that red balloon kid.
oh
Like
my God,
if
yes.
Etienne met the red kid from the red
Oh,
balloon,
I know,
like
yeah,
what would, like I don't know, it's like the crossover that maybe would save the world.
yeah.
But like,
I don't know.
Exactly.
I don't know if it's a spoiler alert, but towards the end, Etienne is in a red balloon. I mean,
I know, but
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
different.
they can find each
Um,
other.
he's
Just
he's
Oh,
he's holding aloft his clearly dead tapeworm. Um,
yes. I
oh
know.
yeah, I mean, I think the original inspiration though really was our we had one of our cats had a tapeworm, and it was it's just disgusting.
It's so
If you
disgusting.
if you've ever have you ever had a cat with a tapeworm or something?
Yes, I have.
Yeah,
It's not
it
good.
comes out in segments, and
It's
oh.
it's horrible. And many just it's very disgusting and what a horrible human I am, but many teenage girls in the 90s really thought that they wanted to have tapeworms because they thought it'd be so
Oh
great if you
yeah,
could be
yeah.
skinny and like, cocaine skinny, but then you realize the reality of what a tapeworm is really awful. And then when your cat has it, it's really sad and horrible.
You would get
And
them
you
like
feel
in the
awful.
mail or something. I remember you would get like a dried worm or something in the mail, and then or the eggs, and then you would
Hmm.
ingest it.
could there
It's
be
not
anything more
good.
Victorian than that?
I know.
Speaking of keeping it turn of the
Right.
century,
Yes.
Hmm.
my God. And again, like I think I mentioned this in the email, but the drawings for me, uh, they evoke an Edward Goriness that it is not his style, it is not the cross hatching, but like so much of I think maybe it's the expression of the most
Yeah,
nonplussed
yeah.
child possible. To
Yeah, and a little bit of it's the coloring too. I wanted to
Mm,
go with a very basic sort of color scheme. What's really kind of sad is that almost every Edward Gorey book was black and white, or they were originally, because and they were a lot of them were self-published too, because
mhm.
he couldn't find anyone to sign on to his weird books, and when he did, they were like, we can't do this in color because it's too expensive. And it is really expensive to do a kid's book in color, unless you're doing it on a scale of 100,000 books or something. So it's a terrible idea. It's just a loss leader, let's say.
But the one color in this is feels again so much of that era of like we can do black, we can do one color and
Yeah, yeah.
pick it and be
Yeah,
done.
it just adds to the sadness, really. You're like, oh, that's you can only afford one color. I wish they still did that. I mean, you have to pay for every color though. But
Yeah.
I wish you could still do just one color, and you go, yeah, if I could do like a really nice, it'd be like $100 letterpress screen print edition or something, and whatnot. And
And I think
someday maybe.
and I think one of the things I love about this, because it is most definitely proof of you cannot take a joke too far.
It's true.
I don't know if you feel that way of like
Yeah,
this
yeah. I
throwaway
think, I
thing.
mean, if you can, you know, I usually take the joke as far as I can, and then I might dial it back if I have to. Like there was some stuff where I was like, I'm probably not going to show this kid like losing so much weight that he's emaciated or something, because I wanted to keep it kind of upbeat. But yeah, I think that yeah, there's and there's something I was like, and I want this to be, acceptable for an 8 or 9 or 10-year-old kid to, pick up, and it's gonna be so upbeat and cheery that and it has a positive message, which is something in some about friendship, maybe kind of, I don't know, but it's like it's so you'd be a really hard pressed to find something offensive about it if you were a parent and they were like, what is this, why is that a worm? You'd be like, yeah, but they're friends. You'd be like, oh, I don't, so I tried, I could have pushed some stuff further, and that's, I mean, with I did these two Mothman books that I've picture books that I've done. One's a Christmas and one's a Halloween, comes out this fall, and
And there's
with
a
those
Valentine's one as well, I
there
believe.
will be, yeah.
There will be. Oh,
The third one, and so I wanted them to be like legit, children's book. I was like, well, I can make it scary, or I can sort of, make it for really young kids, 4 or 5-year-olds or something. And I just got my like second school library journal review on them, and it was glowing. So these books are going into school libraries, which is something that I've always wanted to be banned from a school library.
there's some
It just
time.
hasn't happened yet. It just has
Yeah.
not happened
Yeah,
yet.
it's gonna come.
Be it the righteous indignation you can thumb up and go, oh, with the children need access to the literature and the blah blah.
Yes.
And they're like, we're talking about a book with a worm in it, and I'm like, oh,
I
you
just the
know,
thought of, the
Someday.
bluest eye and satanic verses and the secret
hmm
pet. I
I
mean,
hmm
mean,
that would be a very cool table to hang out with for dinner.
I
that
was
would be an
just,
excellent table.
I was just researching the bluest eye, and you might know this if you have a black cat, but black cats don't actually have blue eyes, and and there is like one breed, but it was very rare and is thought to be extinct actually. So I would probably ban that book just on the grounds that it's not accurate.
It's
I mean,
inaccurate.
um I can you ban fiction for that I don't know. I don't know. Maybe
I
I don't
have this eerie feeling that if we took the three of our Google search histories and put them like on top of
know.
each other, it'd be pretty much a flat circle.
Yeah, pretty
Yeah.
much.
There's no Venn
There's not even
diagram.
a
It's just a
no.
deep
Yeah,
dive on the early
it's
literature of Toni
just.
Morrison and
I
tapeworms.
know.
So
I
I
mean,
just was
which
going
Toni
over it, and I
Morrison's
was going,
probably the same.
this. I go, she has to know. She has to know that there are no blue eyes. This has to be.
yeah.
I don't think she does. And
Oh,
reading it, I'm like, I don't. Has she ever had a cat? I don't know.
I
I
don't
just.
know.
but does it mean something greater than that? I feel like she's one of
Maybe
those
she
writers
doesn't.
that you just
I
give
don't
every
know.
benefit of the doubt. And you're like, she knows this, but there's a reason why she doesn't, you
And we're
know.
not
Yeah,
smart enough to
yeah.
know what she
It,
means.
yeah. Like I'm
I mean,
like, you look at Great Gatsby or Catsby for that matter.
yeah,
Yeah, the
yeah.
Great Gatsby.
That, I spent a lot of time in high school being like, I get TJ Ecclesburg in the eyes. Okay, cool. But like, how much of that did he mean? And how much was he just too wasted to like get
Well,
deeper
he
into
could get
it?
in the absinthe bar.
Oh, yeah, he was writing the second
I
draft there.
I mean, yeah. Fitch. I don't think he meant a lot of the stuff he put in there. He was just like,
No,
women are bad drivers,
I
and that's what
mean,
this whole book
right?
is about. And you're like, oh my God,
What?
Fitzgerald, you're So
So profound and sexy.
I know.
Because we
Well, what
believe
it
you're
means is
sexy.
it means the car is the no. I think he just
Mhm.
it was. I mean, that's why I did do a version of it called Catsby, which was a parody, which has instead of the iconic sort of yellow car in the book, it's an Oscar Mayer Wienermobile
As it should
that
be.
that runs him down at the end. So
I
Which
have to admit I
which
haven't
really
read it,
does
but I always envisioned
says it
Daisy
all.
or Tom or Nick, I'm sorry, just
mhm.
tapping something off the edge of the countertop in some scene. But it's maybe,
That's
fan fiction
that
on my
sounds like
part.
them. Yeah, yeah.
Daisy
Well,
would do it with her tail.
yeah, no, mine is completely Catsby is a furry in it, and he never gets
Yes,
out of
of course he is.
he never gets out of his costume the whole time. He just sort of lives within it,
It's
it's
tracks.
it again it is this one's actually sad too because at the end he's like there's just this dead costume floating in the water, and is there a body inside of it?
Oh,
We don't know. We don't know.
see, this is as profound as the eyes.
Yeah. And I think he has he has a pet dragon in the book. It's a small pet dragon named Judy Dench. Uh, so
I see that.
there's a whole it's really involved stuff, but yeah, it's
That's amazing.
I'm
Yeah,
sure
we have to read it.
between Catsby, the Mothman books, the 50 Shades of Earl Grey,
mhm.
your Obama Biden mysteries, your Bernie mystery. Is there just one of those, I believe?
Yeah, there's just one. Yeah.
For the
Mhm.
burn. And now the saga of Etienne and his new best friend.
Mhm.
I'm sure you must get a lot of questions about where your ideas come from. And I think I would
No,
phrase that differently and say, can we hang out?
yeah, no.
You asked that
You know
last
what?
time.
Nobody asks that because as soon as those words start to like leave their lips, I just kind of give them this death stare, which is just like this question again. Is it you really want to go here? Ask it. I
Right,
dare you. And so
right.
it's like, yeah,
It's
it
Because Luke, you
never
asked
comes
that
out.
last time.
did
And
I?
when you asked that last time,
Oh
think of how many
Jesus.
years it's been since we talked to him.
I
I
Don't
know.
know,
ask
and
it
I have
again.
I
well,
don't even
but it's
remember, but
just you have produced so much since then that it is just a embarrassment of riches and like the breadth of it and the depth of again this idea of going too far for a joke or really leaning into it and going how you know let's make cats be a
yeah.
furry, let's
Well,
there's
I'll
something.
have you talk to my agent then, because the issue is,
Please,
when
are you on
you
Cameo?
don't
Yeah.
when you don't when you don't stick to like one genre, I said what's my genre is like humor, and so everything sort of falls under that umbrella, but it's all, this book is this book's a parody, this book is sci-fi, this one's horror, they're all this one's a mystery, and and in fact I've had publishers want more mysteries from me, and I'm like, I'm kind of like onto something else now,
Mhm.
and so I'm like doing these kids books now, and so I never really do the same book more than a couple times, and I don't know if it's because it gets boring or what, but I just like to go in different directions, but I think it falls under the same umbrella. But again, it's really hard to sell because your readers that read these mysteries are not crossing over and picking up children's books, though.
This is
So
true.
so it's like you almost have to reestablish yourself in a different genre or something each time. So yeah, so I mean, so right now I have the luxury of doing that. Um, at some point, will I be forced to go write another mystery or something? Possibly. But we'll
You
tell those mystery readers I really love it and I really want to do it. And
It was the time to bring Bernie back with AOC as his, Watson to his homes.
well, AOC was originally supposed to be the Watson to the Holmes in that book, but it was just like it's just too political,
Mm.
actually.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with politics. It's gotten so political.
Right.
And you know, it's trying to find someone like Bernie is so he's the least divisive, really. And like, I don't think he's so far left, nobody takes him seriously on the right, I think, you know. And yeah, I don't think they view him as a threat, really. They're like, oh, he's just, you know, he's out there talking his Bernie stuff. But yeah, so it's it's like that's why I had ideas for another, you know, mystery where I wanted to do one was called Hillary Clinton Pet Detective, and she had a dog named Bill, and it was always like humping her leg and humping other legs and whatnot. And so you know, I was like, I don't know how far I would have been able to take that one joke, but I was like, oh, I got this. And then, you know, the publisher was all, my editor was like, it's just, she's too political. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what? Like, where do I go? Because if you get someone who's kind of lukewarm, you know, that nobody really follows, you know, it's like, you know, I already tried Trump and that did not go anywhere. You know, it sold like 500 copies, you know, and then I did Obama Biden and that sells like 150,000 copies. So people who read were not really in the mood to pick up a book about Donald Trump. And now I just don't know. I just don't think people are willing to pick up books about politics at all, you know?
Yeah.
Well, it seems like, yeah, you would be alienating half of the reader base with whomever you chose to put in as your protagonist.
Well, you're assuming that conservatives can read, though. So
fair point. Well, that's why you got into children's books right here, now available.
Right.
But
I think they're waiting for the movie versions or something. Yeah. I literally got zero hate for my Obama, Biden, or my Bernie books from the right. I got a little bit of hate from the far left, actually, for humanizing these genocidal politicians, you know. So I was not expecting that. I was like, oh, that's not where I was expecting you know, I was expecting to, you know, Fox News or someone to pick up on it, but they, you know, they're just like, oh, this is really inoffensive. And I'm like,
yeah,
dang it.
Next time, maybe they'll be burning you in effigy.
It is going to happen.
Yeah. Have you gotten feedback
at some point
from actual children or parents of children who accidentally bought this book or intentionally bought this book, for that matter?
You know, it's hard to find child reviewers out there. They're not on Goodreads. They're, you know, it's hard to market to. But I was working on these books and I was getting feedback from some nieces and nephews and stuff. And so I had a little bit of I mean, but you know, they're just, you know, sycophantic, right? They're just gonna,
yeah,
I mean,
classic.
Well, you know, I should say, sometimes they can be honest to a fault, though. Be like, oh, that doesn't work, you know. So but I really don't know how to take them sometimes. So I was just like, you know, I really didn't get a ton, but I have done several readings with the Mothman book, the Christmas Mothman book I did. And I did that, and kids came out to those events and they enjoyed it. And I had, you know, I had several kids. I had one kid I did at an event that I did. His parents bought him the book, and he was like 2 years old or something, and immediately put it in his mouth and started chewing on it. And I was like, "Well, I've like that's a review right there."
Yeah, that's a 5-star right there.
That's what
good
everyone wants to see.
Yep.
No, I think
tastes great.
Good enough to feed to your tapeworm.
Yeah, that's what better praise could a child have,
right? Yes, that's.
I know. You know, so yeah, so I have gotten some of it. The thing about kids books, though, is that you're really marketing them to the parents, you know, and so you have to make them appealing to the parents to get past the parents to get to the kids. And so it's really been, it's parents who love Mothman are like, look at this, and they're showing it to their kids or whatever, I'm surprised there aren't like books about like the 90s or something out there. Like, look, this is my childhood. This is what we had. We had the X-Files and we had Bill Clinton, and this is what we had. So
your
yeah,
Sugar Ray mystery series will be coming out when?
Oh my God.
Oh my goodness.
Like Mark McGrath all the way.
That would be
spiky hair.
That's a freebie.
I don't know.
Just take that.
Maybe a Creed series could
Oh.
do,
that's how you get your conservatives right there.
Mm.
Well, Scott Stapp mystery.
Oh, I wonder if I could get him to sign on for that. The Scott Stapp mysteries. Here's the other thing about mysteries,
like
though.
Highway
If you write
to
one,
Heaven, like a Christian,
like
Scott Stapp, like Michael Landon.
I remember that Michael Landon. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's
the thing about these is, though, if it's really popular, people will just keep asking you for more, and you're like, oh, because I get people say, where's the next Bernie one, and I'm like, ooh, I don't know. Let me go look, and then I just have to kind of walk away, and it's
like walk that line, not being too popular, just popular enough.
Yeah, just popular enough to get published, but not popular enough for people to want more.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's telling the same joke again.
That's so hard. I mean, I don't read a lot of series books, and I find like sitcoms to be really frustrating because when I did the bromance in the first book for Obama Biden, they actually they make up at the end of the book and they reconcile and everything's fine, and then you go, oh, for book 2 you have to find another reason to split them up because you can't have a buddy cop show. That's why in Lethal Weapon, like the second Lethal Weapon or the third one, whatever, they had to introduce Danny DeVito because they needed a new antagonist because they'd already put these two characters together and they were kind of getting along.
Right.
So it was just actually I was watching that recently, and what's really what really made me feel so old was I was watching it and Danny Glover, in that he's sitting there and he's like, oh, I'm too old for this shit, and he's the same age I am right now. He's like 45.
Oh.
Yeah, no. Try being the same age as Marlon Brando in The Godfather.
Oh my God. I don't know. Yeah, but I don't. That must be 100. And
exactly, 48.
But like 40 looks a lot different now than it did in 1972.
I know.
I thought Danny Glover though he said he was horrible. He's like, oh my God, it's just all this kind of stuff. And he's like, I'm going to retire. And then I look up his age and he's like 45 or something. And I'm like, oh my God, what? You were retiring very early.
He had a very good career, clearly, in the Force.
in the Force, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So, but yeah, that's what you have to do, though. If you do a series, you have to like break them up. And so the second Obama Biden, I had to find another thing that gets between them, which is that Joe Biden wants to know whether Area 51 is real and there are aliens there, and to do that, though, he has to run for president. So it's and so because Obama's like, I'm not going to tell you. He's like, he won't tell. You won't just like whisper to me. He's like, I can't tell you. You got to become president yourself. So, and then that happened. And so I'm like, oh my, and so now he knows. So now I'm like, I would have to find another thing to split them up, although in real life, you can kind of see Obama kind of shaking his head a lot around him. Like, what are you saying? Oh, what are you?
Yeah. Well, as a complete aside, did sales spike or plateau after Biden's election?
They took a nosedive.
Okay, nobody wanted
because people there was just so much of him in the news, and again, it had gotten so political. Like when I wrote the books, he was an ex vice president,
Yeah.
And I would say I think people still, love Obama because he's out of there, but all of a sudden it just became so political, especially during the primaries. There were
Mm.
people like, oh, we're for this person, and your book is about this person. So immediately, even on the left, the audience it was just like, it was just a drop. And I was like, oh, what are you doing for my books here? This is not a good move, Joe.
Yeah.
Whatever you think you're doing for the country, you got to think of the books,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I
Um,
guess so. The Kamala mystery series is probably right out, just in case.
Yeah.
oh,
You got
there's
to keep
no
your powder
Kamala Miss.
dry. Yeah.
Uh, there's
No,
no,
it's
co-
just
well, we looked into that, and she was polling at like 0% or
Right.
something in terms of people loving her. So I was
It's
like,
true.
oh, well, actually, I did try. I did try. I did some sort of test where I did one with like Joe and her, and the problem was she is so serious though. Her persona is so serious, and that you just couldn't wring any humor from it. She just killed every scene that she was in as like the straight man. But it was just like so straight to make Joe, pee his pants. It was like, oh, this is not good humor.
Have you thought about going
but
backwards? I feel like I'm not necessarily saying the Grover Cleveland mysteries, though, but like, go back to a kinder, gentler, earlier time when it was a little more, it wasn't so divisive. There was an actual legitimate desire to produce something at the end of the day politically.
Yeah.
Not that
I
anyone's
don't.
clamoring for the Sparrow Agno mysteries. Let me just put that out there.
Yeah. I was gonna say, what's that one racist in the Senate, but that doesn't.
Yeah, narrow it down. Like the
yeah.
Jesse Helms, was that the one you're thinking? Or more
God, yeah,
recently, racist?
it's sad that does not narrow it down at all, does it? Um, um, what?
Currently being racist in the Senate?
Oh, Strom Thurmond. Strom
Oh, yes,
Thurmond.
yes.
Yeah.
And Joe Biden would say, "Oh, everybody got along back in the day. He was a horrible racist, but we had to work together and we had to golf together and stuff." um, I tell you, the problem about doing stuff in the past is that it doesn't sit well with readers today because
Hmm.
of how. Um, Here's the thing. I tried to do this. I did a horror novel set in the 80s, called Secret Santa. And it's set in the publishing world of the 80s where the editor is trying to find the next Stephen King. So there's this big publishing horror boom. And I tried to, insert like real stuff from the 80s, and to the sort of the test readers that I had reading it, who were younger than me, they were like, "Oh my God, did people really talk like that?" Whatever horrible language we used in the 80s, and they were honestly, I just shocked. And there were
Hmm.
interns at the publisher that were like, "I can't read this anymore. This is so offensive." And I was like, "You've never heard that word before, or something."
Right.
And I just remember there was one scene in particular where this early beta reader that we had, and she was maybe like 25 or something, and she was like, "This boss is just harassing this woman, this female employee like this. That's not right. You need to take this out. It should be able to do that." And I was like, um, it's fiction, and I'm like showing like how bad things were actually, and they were like, "No, it's too bad. We don't want to know how bad it was." So I
Right.
had to really, I really had to sanitize a lot of stuff to sort of, you know otherwise it was distracting. They'll just read through it and they'll go, "We don't call people that anymore," and I'm like,
Yeah.
"Well, we don't, but we did, and look how horrible we were." you
Right. We're
know
so
Yeah.
much
i
better
i
now.
I know. So you have to kind of walk a fine line between, shining a light on that, and then, saying, does the world need a lighthearted Strom Thurmond
Right.
mystery? Obviously there are probably better people out there,
Yeah, of
I
those
had a
needing.
friend who wrote like an Abraham Lincoln sort of steampunk mystery or something called the the Great Abraham Lincoln Pocket Watch Conspiracy or something a number of years ago. So those are out there, but the editor I worked on the books with actually was the editor that worked on like Pride, Prejudice, and Zombies,
Mhm.
and those
Nice.
books for Quirk. So
So great.
that was sort of the genesis is looking at like how are we going to mash up these politicians with whatever. And I thought Pride, Prejudice, Zombies. I thought Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter was good,
Mhm.
but even in that one, you had to tone down like the slavery stuff in the book,
Right.
because at one point they're like, actually, the slave masters are vampires and they're feeding off of their slaves, and you're like, oh, this gets a little dicey here.
Yeah.
It's a little
Yeah,
too serious for what you want to have happen in a book about Abraham Lincoln fighting vampires.
completely
Yeah.
fair. The Secret Pet by Andrew Shaffer is available right now wherever you get your books. It's perfect for children, yes, but also dads and grads. For more information, check out his website, andrewshaffer.com, or you can find him on Facebook, where he is at facebook.com/Andrew Shaffer Books.
Why the Podcast is produced by the Professional Production Company. Please be sure to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts because we're shallow and need constant validation. For more information, you can check out our website, whythepodcast.com. And like everyone else, we're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Today's show was recorded and produced by Heidi Hedquist and myself from our world headquarters, located on the second floor of the professional office building, centrally located downtown. Our reluctant executive producers are John Sauvé and Sandy Stone. Our willing producers are Rachel Allen and Randy Jeanette. Our intern is Zach Jackson. This one's for Philippe. Thanks for joining us. Flash, we're coming home.
Nigel, is that you? Are you here, Nigel?